Hi Pat, thank you for speaking to me today.
Hi.
As the subtitle of the book says, your book is about corruption and bad behaviour in the school system in England. What do you mean when you talk about corruption in the context of education?
Well, I guess corruption is a term which has actually got two meanings, really. So there's a very old meaning which goes all the way back to the Greeks, and comes up through people like Machiavelli and Christianity and Marxism, and sort of a bunch of people have talked about the state as being corrupt. And what they mean by that is a kind of a state which is not functioning in the best interests of the people that it's meant to serve, or the people that actually constitute the state, or a nation state in our case as we understand it. So there's that kind of understanding of corruption, which is a state which is not doing very well and
Okay.
is sick in some way. And then there's the more contemporary understanding of corruption, which is a kind of a legal definition, which refers to practices like fraud, cronyism, political bribery, those kinds of activities, we would understand as being corruption, in a kind of technical and contemporary sense. And so in the book, I actually talk about corruption as it actually is generally understood today, with things like fraud and bribery and naughty sort of doings.
Yeah.
So I also, rather than talk about, one point I did consider talking about um, big corruption and big C corruption and little c corruption, with big C corruption being the legal definition and little c corruption being the kind of sick state. And then I decided not to do that. I thought that would be a bit twee and a bit confusing. And so I decided to talk about corrupted practices. So in other
Yes.
words, they're practices that go on in the state which actually have really perverse kind of outcomes that don't work in people's best interests. And so, the A-level fiasco is a really good example of, certainly in the first instance, of a corrupted practice. Because something that was intended to, fairly represent students' achievements during a very kind of difficult time and give their academic attainment, a score, actually ended up producing some very bizarre results, and a whole lot. Now there's been a lot of social costs attached to that. So even though there's been some redress, there's still, and that decision's been reversed, there's still a lot of problems going on as a result of it in universities and places where students had a place, didn't have a place, now have it
Yeah.
back, but can't till next year. That's what I'd call it's a version of a corrupted practice, so that just produces something that doesn't work in everybody's best interest.